He stepped off the bus and into my life. It was late afternoon in Valparaiso, Chile, the city draped in golden light, waves whispering just out of sight when Lorenzo arrived. Tall, lean, with tousled dark hair and a backpack that looked like it had stories to tell. He stood on the corner, squinting at his phone, searching for an address, and found me instead. I was Helena, writer, professor of literature, 58, a widow for 5 years. My children had long flown away. Germany, Canada, 2 different time zones, 2 very different lives. I, on the other hand, had grown rooted. My days were quiet, predictable. Books, long walks, black coffee. I had come to terms with solitude, with time, or so I believed. Lorenzo was 24, an aerospace engineering student from Mendoza, Buddhist, vegetarian, dreamer, the kind of young man who kept a journal, made his own granola, and used words like mindfulness without irony. He was renting the back studio behind my house for a semester abroad. We were supposed to have a quick 5-minute meeting to hand over the keys. We talked for 8 hours, and for the next 8 months, we lived. At first, I told myself it was curiosity. I hadn't met someone so alive in years. He asked questions like no one else. Do you believe in fate? Do you think your younger self would like you now? Why do adults give up on wonder? He made me laugh. He made me think. And then, slowly, he made me feel. I wondered, what was he doing with someone like me? A woman 3 decades older. Was I a substitute for a mother? A mentor? A safe place to land? Maybe. But I knew what I wanted, and it was not maternal. I wanted the impossible. He invited me for a jog by the ocean. I hadn't run since 1998, but I said yes. I wore sneakers I found buried in the closet. He ran ahead, effortless like the wind. I stumbled after him, breathless and amused. At one point, he turned around and shouted, "Helena, you're not even trying." And I said, "I didn't come to run. I came to be near you." He stopped, laughed, not out of mockery but surprise. In that moment, I saw it. A shift, a door opening. He started caring for me, banning my processed snacks, cutting my caffeine. He told me our generation was addicted to poisons in shiny wrappers. I let him. It was absurd and oddly touching. One day, he invited me to help him buy underwear. For him, I teased. Need help picking boxers too? He grinned. Only if you want to choose one for yourself. Standing among satin and lace, blushing like a teenager, I realized we had crossed a line. Or maybe erased it altogether. Still, nothing happened. Not yet. Instead, Lorenzo made a request. A ritual, he said, part of his family's spiritual tradition. He couldn't be physically intimate with anyone until they performed a symbolic union. Temporary. Sacred. I agreed. We stood before a mirror. His phone played the soft chime of a Tibetan bell. He took my hands. He said, "I vow to protect your heart." I said, "I vow to stop questioning everything." It was ridiculous and profound. What followed were days suspended from time, green juice mornings, chess games I always lost, watching documentaries on the cosmos, late-night talks under the stars. He told me about his dream of working with satellites, connecting the planet. "We're all just signals trying to find each other," he said. One night, we drove to the harbor at 2 a.m. We lay in the back of his borrowed car, wrapped in a shared blanket, the sky wide open above us. He recited Neruda from memory. I recited silence. He kissed me. I let go. Love, real love, doesn't always arrive in the packaging we expect. Sometimes it shows up 24 and barefoot, with a dream of space and a disdain for sugar. He met my wrinkles with reverence. I met his youth with wonder. Then one day, he asked, "Would you like to meet my parents?" He was going back to Mendoza for a family holiday. He wanted me there, at the table, in his world. That's when the spell broke. Me? Meet his parents? A Western agnostic woman, his mother's age? I imagined the looks, the questions, the quiet judgment. I told him it was time. He needed someone who could walk beside him without the world staring, someone who wouldn't fade under the light of his future. He cried. So did I. We hugged for a long time, a still, silent goodbye. He packed his books. I stood in the doorway. He didn't look back. Months passed. And then, Lisbon. I was attending a poetry festival. My phone buzzed with a message. Subject, answer. It read, "You once asked me what you meant to me. I thought a lot about it. You were my compass, my north in the middle of chaos." And beneath it, a final line. "We'll always have Valparaiso. Just like in Casablanca. A love that doesn't end, just changes shape. Not lost, just untouchable." Lorenzo taught me that some stories don't last forever, but they echo, and sometimes, the love that doesn't fit into a lifetime is the one that lives forever in memory. And in a way, we'll always have Valparaiso. Before Lorenzo, there was Daniel. We met in Buenos Aires, under rain. I was 27, fresh out of university, with a notebook full of poems and no real plan. He was a photographer, scruffy, warm, always chasing light with his lens. We fell in love quickly, completely. Our life together was one of books stacked in corners, half-cooked meals, and impulsive travel. He once took me on a motorcycle to Patagonia, just to show me the stars. He made me feel like the world was something you could hold in your hands if you dared. We were married for 26 years, and then, cancer, quick, cruel, unfair. After Daniel, my heart folded inward. I stopped writing poetry. I stopped traveling. I stopped believing that passion could come twice in one life, until Lorenzo knocked quite literally on my door. He reminded me of Daniel in some ways, not in appearance, but in spirit. That same restlessness, that same hunger for beauty. One evening, weeks into his stay, I found him flipping through one of Daniel's old photography books. "These are incredible," he said. "Did you take them?" I smiled. "No, my husband did." He turned the page slowly. He saw the world like it was a miracle. I nodded. He did. He closed the book gently. "So do you. You just forgot." That night, I took down my old notebooks, and for the first time in years, I wrote something. It wasn't good, but it was honest. A few months later, Lorenzo asked if I had ever been to the Atacama Desert. "I haven't," I said. "I've always meant to. We should go," he replied, eyes sparkling. I laughed. "Now? Why not now?" And so, we did. We took a bus, a long, winding ride through endless landscapes. He wore headphones and scribbled equations on a napkin. I stared out the window, overwhelmed by the vastness of it all. In San Pedro, we rented bicycles. I hadn't ridden in years, but somehow my body remembered. We rode to Moon Valley at dusk. The wind howled. The rocks glowed with otherworldly color. It felt like another planet. Like we had left Earth. That night, we lay on a blanket beneath the clearest sky I had ever seen. Stars pulsed overhead like silent witnesses. "I used to think I'd live on Mars," he whispered. I turned to him. "And now?" He shrugged. "Now I think maybe it's enough to live well on Earth." I reached for his hand. He let me hold it. We didn't speak again for a long time. On the way back to Valparaiso, he dozed off on my shoulder. I watched his face peaceful, unguarded. I felt something rise in my chest that I hadn't let myself feel in years. Hope. Not that we'd last. Not that it would make sense. Just that it was real. And real was enough. The week before his departure felt like limbo. Lorenzo spent less time in the studio and more time in the main house. He cooked for us lentils, grilled tofu, brown rice with bits of mango. He said food could be affection. I believed him. On Thursday, he arrived with a wooden box in his hands. "Open it," he said, smiling. Inside there were small things. A stone from Moon Valley. A pressed flower from the park bench where we first sat side by side. A printed photo of me laughing, Mid-sentence, I hadn't even known he'd taken it, and beneath it all, a compass. Real, old-fashioned brass. Its needle trembled slightly, always pointing north. "I thought you should have this," he said, "so you never forget where you are, or where you were." I blinked back tears. "What about you?" I asked. "Don't you need it?" He shrugged. "I already have mine." And then he pointed not to the compass, but to me. That night, we danced. No music, just the sound of the ocean through the open window. My feet on his arms around my shoulders, the rhythm of goodbye. The next morning, he left early. He didn't want to make it harder than it already was. I understood, but he left one last note on the kitchen table, folded in half like a secret. It read, "In another life, another sky, I'll find you again. Wait for me there." I kept it in my coat pocket all the way through winter.
The end.